Good morning or afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. Welcome to this short 45-minute webinar titled Building Planning Apps for a Modern Age. So just before we go on, we're just going to start up a poll and we're going to leave it up for a few minutes. So if you could just pop an answer in there and we'll go through that later on when we get the results towards the end. And also, if at any time you want to pop a question in the chat box in the GoToMeeting, we'll have people on hand who will be looking at questions coming in. So ideally, we'll have a bit of time at the end to do that, and if something very specific comes in during it that we can answer. So without further ado, then let's get started. So we're presenting this from Fusion 5. My name is Phil Taphouse, and I'm the FP&A or CPM Solutions Architect here at Fusion 5, or one of them here. So I'll just give you a bit of a background as to my journey and how we get onto the topic, which we're going to talk about in here, about user experience. But I've been working over a decade with planning or CPM tools. I'm a qualified accountant, so I've worked with finance people all along. But back in around about 2007, I was in Perth at the time, and I first discovered CPM as a subject, so corporate performance management, and the toolkits. So it came when I was doing a finance implementation, and a CFO from an oil and gas company I was working with asked me, can we do corporate modeling? And at the time, I just said, corporate what? And so I then thought, what is that? And I got interested in it. And of course, I knew about budgeting and forecasting, but the concepts that he was talking about was more interesting in how it comes together. So I was then working with some of these tools over the following few years. This is early on, sort of early 2010, 11, 12. And what I found was that these tools tend to be historically very expensive. They required a lot of consultants, and to my feel, the tools never really took off unless you're really at the top end of the like top companies who can afford such things. So the implementations I was involved, to be honest, I don't really feel they delivered completely on value. Like if the report needs to be changed, it needs someone to kind of do it, because it was just too hard to show people how to do things. It wasn't until about 2017 when I first came across Workday Adaptive Planning, which is the product we'll be looking at today within this area. And that's when I realized this is how a tool should be that does this. It's something which is manageable. So previously in some of the other tools that are out there on the market, that would take, and tools that I've worked with in the past could take like 5 days, 3, 4, 5 days for something that would just take 1 day of effort within Adaptive. So, you know, for now, we are implementing from small and to larger companies with the same product. So I'd say that where we are now is that this has become much more available for people. But even now, I feel that it's still only partly on people's radar. They still haven't quite recognised the value. And I've been banging this drum for many years now. So I do think it's one of the most valuable things that you can do in an organisation. Okay, so with that background, let's look at the topic of what we're talking about today. And we're not talking about tomato sauce today, but this is very important to what we're addressing today. So what we have here is obviously a very nice interface in the left-hand side here of a tomato ketchup bottle, and the user interface, and then the actual user experience that we want to define. Now, for those of you who've used one of these, this is the user experience. You start bashing away at the bottom of the ketchup bottle, and eventually a whole pile of tomato sauce comes out over your chips. You can't control it, and you're having to bash it down until you do. You can't. So when we actually have the experience layer, so first of all, turn it upside down. So it's immediately available. Immediately you get it. We don't have to try and get it to the end, and we can squeeze it. It's flexible, and we can get just the desired amount out. So it's a very simple concept, but this is what we are looking at today, because in terms of user experience versus user interface, a user experience is broken down into the value, the usability, adaptability, and desirability. Whereas a user interface is more a reference to the screens, the icons, you know, the visual elements that you interact with when using like a website or an app. Whereas user experience refers to the entire interaction you have with a product, including how you feel about the interaction. So let's pile on this. This is key, and so the reason I've touched and I've made this the central part of this is that it's come to me more recently that the experience is really what gets in the way, and it's the reason why finance organizations have trouble in pushing their processes out, like the budgeting and forecasting, out to the business, because the experience is not going to be good. So let's really drill down on this today and make this an important part of where we're going to go. So up on the screen then, if we turn this concept to business systems, business applications, it's probably something which I think should be much more central to a design of a business system. But of course, I'm going back a little bit more in time on the icons I've got on here. But we want to get more to the experience that we would get like in an iPhone, which is very easy to use, low training, and something which people want to be in all the time. Whereas the ones on the left, I just want to get my job done and just get the hell out of it because it's just not really a nice experience. So what would it take to get the same experience as we get in an iPhone or websites, which is where traditional user experience is important, into a business application like we're looking at today? So UX or user experience focuses on having a deep understanding of the users and what they need and what they value and their abilities and their limitations. And it takes into account also the organizational objectives of the business. So in today's webinar, we're going to see this in action. We're going to see, and hopefully you'll understand, getting more towards this app-like experience in a planning tool that we're going to be looking at, business planning tool, and how that might address and deal with some of the user experience interaction that the business has within their processes. Okay, so that was my introduction. So let's look at the agenda that we're looking at today. So first of all, we're going to make sure that we understand where planning sits within the whole data journey. Which is what we do at Fusion 5. We look at this very holistically within data. So we'll just address that first up. Then we'll go on to why is business engagement hard? It's what we strive for. We want the business to have an easy method of managing their budgeting, their forecasting, and their month end, but it's not easy to do. And then we'll look at the technology that we'll be talking about today and how we can put user experience first, which is what I've been talking about earlier. And what we want to get to, what we do get to actually, is what you'll see by the end of this, is that our customers, our finance people that we talk to day in, day out, can actually become UX designers, which is normally a software title, but if you have the actual person that actually knows what needs to be delivered and you empower them to do that, then you get a very powerful combination. And then we're going to look at a demonstration. So we are going to look at live demonstration into Workday Adaptive, and we're going to look at how a business manager will interact within a budgeting and a forecasting environment, and also how someone that's a team leader can interact with the tool as well. Okay, so let's go to the first thing and look at the whole data picture here. So at Fusion 5, we have built up a fantastic data management pillar, we call it, or department. And what you can see on the screen here, we're addressing within planning. We can see the planning, which is the heart, the blue heart, but we are very strong on looking at the data management. So with the data architecture, the quality and governance, the engineering, the analytics around it, the reporting, and the planning, which is smart and continuous, narrative reporting, and process automation. So we have a holistic approach to the data in all its forms. Most often it's stored and managed in an ad hoc fashion, and it's presented in multiple forms of the truth. We hear this time and again, and we need to manage this and serve this data up in an organizational, secure manner where the data can be trusted. So we hear this all the time, but it's really what is so important. It's always going to be important. So our framework that we have at Fusion 5 is centralize the data structures. We have standards around the data. So as it comes in, so we have a heterogeneous set of data and we want to make it homogeneous. And you know, with all the native and different sort of data we have around the organization. So we break it down into these 4 different areas, and they all come together, of course. But today we'll be addressing the planning, the heart one in particular, because we do see this as the heart of this data journey, because we have this requirement for high quality budgeting and forecasting data. So it's high quality. We need accurate data reflecting the future reality so we can navigate, the business can navigate through the turbulent times ahead, because we cannot just rely on backward looking data. So it's a crucial part of data quality within the whole picture. So we'll be in this webinar addressing how to connect business managers in particular to their own data and their own processes that allows them to easily manage and stay in the app, stay in it day in, day out. It's not just something I just want to get in and get the head out of, as I said before. And of course, it's all managed in the back end by finance, which is what most of the people on the call here will be, but it's really about this experience that we're going to talk about today. So the second part here is, why is business engagement so hard? It is a too hard basket for a lot of people. So trusty old Dilbert are always going to have something in here. And let's look at what the current situation typically is in the budgeting process. It's you know, in my experience of talking to finance leaders, they are often nervous and concerned about taking on not the planning project for themselves. They love that, but I feel a bit nervous about pushing this out, or very limited in what I give to the business, because they fear imposing a new system on a reluctant business, and they've got used to filling in spreadsheets and just sending them back. It kind of works for them, because if they don't want to take it too seriously. But the result is we get a budget process where the budget delivered is low quality, with internal politics. The goal is to maximize your funding. So you're going to get a bloated budget. It's not accurate. It doesn't reflect the reality of what you want to achieve. And it's the bare minimum. So they also will want to be able to not be accountable, of course. So they're going to make it as easy as possible for them to achieve it. And because we haven't got the right data and the right granularity, they can fly under the radar. So, but not that we're trying to put them on, pin them up on this, but we are like saying, no, we're going to make it nice and easy for you. So this will be a very helpful process to you, not something that we're going to execute you on. So if we did do that and we did get to that ideal environment, what would it look like? And what the answer is that we would have, very much like an iPhone, a very low or no need for training. It literally is, I'm logging in and my experience is going to guide me and explain what to do and how to do it. And it's we have to have something very personalized for that. So it's the same focus. We bring this as we would for a website with user experiences at the front. We're going to keep the user in the app. For that to work, we need the information and data to be at their fingertips. But we need to present that the right data, the relevant data for what they're trying to do at that moment in time. And we want them to try out different things without knowing they're not going to break it. And as a result of that, we can establish a clear link and visibility between about how the budget numbers are created. It's going to be accurate, and it's going to be a well-curated plan with good breakdowns and a well-curated overarching roadmap for the business. Okay, so let's carry on now and just look at an architecture which does put that user experience at the fore. So in any of our planning products, this is how we view this. We view these as apps at the front end here. So we start at the front end, and we can see how we can develop these apps and experiences around different components of the business, so different types of data they want, and in terms of revenue and operational data. And a lot of people will have a number of these different scenarios around that they need to address, but we don't want it to be too finance focused. So this app experience is going to be front end, and we are talking about finance being the people that can build these apps, which we'll come to see in a second. And for each business user, we have a variety of interfaces. So we use the user interface, which is the web, dashboards, and connect to the all common products with Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, but connected directly to it. So each interface provides a different experience. So depending on if it's a Power Finance user, for instance, or business manager or an executive. And then what we need to have an underlying database that replaces Excel. This database though needs to be a bit special. It needs to, it's got specialized characteristics that lend themselves to real-time modeling. Real-time is really important, so that if you do something, you'll immediately see the result of that. So real-time modeling, and it allows instant trying out of things like new scenarios. I can try it and see what it does and discard it if I want. That kind of activity becomes very easy and intuitive for the manager. And just down at the bottom, the data is just the definitely is the oil that is required. If we only have half the data, we're only going to get half the value that we need. So we need to be able to get this data very quickly and easily in an automated fashion where appropriate. So so we need that underlying data. We have this concept of data availability. It needs to be available easily so that the finance person that's building these can just drag and drop them in there to the data they need. Okay, now we're going to look at one example before I dive in shortly into the actual Workday product, but I just wanted you to see this in reality as to an actual customer example. It's a test one, so we're not showing any data here, but I refer to the idea here that the finance person can become like a UX web designer, and this is exactly what happens. So if we look at this here, this is an interface not done by us. It's in a test scenario, but just bear with me a sec, and if I can just get up my highlighter. Okay, so what we can see here, first of all, is we're looking at one particular area, CapEx in this example. How do we manage, how do we get the business? It's a business-facing screen interface. And you can see, of course, we've got other tabs which would go to different areas like revenue, other expenses, and they can just go through each one, but we just have a look at this one for now. So a couple of things first is instructions, really clear instructions. This is what the process is to do it. This is how you do it. And interestingly enough, we've got two sets of instructions here, budget and also forecast instructions. So we're recognizing here that we do actually need something different, and we'll come to this later in the demo of the different types of experience we need, because they're different things. We have to treat budgeting and forecasting as separate things. But ultimately, we are at the bottom here, we've just got one item in here, so it would normally be a build-up of many requests for CapEx by yourself, in this case, the person that's running this area. And the list here is completely customizable. So for instance, we can see it's been budgeted and it's got an application stated of completed. And these are referenced up here, for instance. We can see here this has been completed. So I can see what my applications are, where they're at easily. Remember, we did not do this. The data was there. They just needed to drag and drop and create this. And we can see, for instance, the status of those here, and we can see it's been budgeted, it's grayed out. So that one's already gone through. And then if we just look at some of these areas here, they will fill in these here, whether it's a high priority or and also like, when's it going to be in service? So for instance, we're going to build up this budget. But if we just look at the forecast instructions, this is quite telling. So please review your CapEx items and update when you plan on purchasing. So now we've gone past the budgeting, we've budgeted for the year, now we're through into the year. And now we want people to actually say, well, now what's happened and changed? So maybe you'd said we're going to purchase an item in April, but now it's going to be in June. And I want that information from finance, because our cash will all update related on what they're doing here. We're in a forecast version at the minute here, for instance. So, and any item, when will it be fully functional? Well, there's that in service state. So again, I get the opportunity to say, well, no, it's not ready yet. I'm going to change that date. But also, is there any future unbudgeted items? And if you do, what are you going to forego? So it's very clear and very guided on what they're doing. Very easy to get something. And if you contrast that with what they would normally get, it's in a spreadsheet. You can see the change in there. Okay, so sec, and we'll move on. Okay, so we're now we're about halfway through. So let's have a look at this in action. So what does an in-app demo look like? And we're going to go into Workday and have a look. Okay, so on your screen now, you can see an interface. So I'm going to go into the Workforce tab here. So let's just talk through the screen a little bit and orientate you. So you saw something similar before, but first of all, let's address where we're at in this cycle. We're doing a budget process. This is actually a calendar year, January to December. So we are preparing for the coming 2022 year. And I'm a budget manager. I'm in a department called Sales Melbourne. And I am now updating my plans for the coming year. And so let's just look at what's presented here. We have an instruction. For each employee, review this information, that's this information here, imported from the HR system. So we have data availability immediately. All that's available is come from a source that is trusted. Adjust, and we're telling them what to do. Adjust the titles, the end dates, details, where there will be changes, and also for new hires, add new rows. And what we can see here is that we've got a few rows here already which have come in from the HR system, but also we've had the opportunity to add 3 new ones ourselves because we're budgeting. We think we can, these are account executives in this case. So let's look at how the data on this screen really presents for the experience of the user, how we can make this so that this is a really interactive and easy experience to get them, help them, guide them, make this powerful. So first of all, let's look at some of the data screens that we got around here. And what I've got here is some targets here. So this is the revenue. So we can see there that I'm 118%. So I'm doing good in my revenue. Remember, these are executives. So executives also bring revenue with them. And we can see in terms of expenses here, we're in the red, which means we're actually 136%, 36% over budget, over the target rather than over budget, because we're doing budget here. And also, if we look at a couple of the screens here, and we're looking at payroll plan versus last year. So we need something to guide them and give them some data, some comparators, so they can see what they're doing makes sense. So at this current stage here with the budget, we're going to look to last year. When we come to forecast, this will change, but we're just in this one for now. And so we can see with these new additions and maybe what's happened with the current headcount, we are, this is last year's, so we're high for most of the year. There's a bit of a bump here. And we can also see here we came from 568 last year, and we're up at 761. So again, it's useful information. I can see the bridge by quarter. It could be by any other type. So we've got some good information there. So before I do some changes here and show you these interactions, let's look at this up here. So I'm at the department level, as we can see there, and I can see my entire organization. Now, remember, I'm a finance manager. I'm coming in as the completely, but if I am this actual manager here, I will only see that there. If I flip from there to Sydney, say, so Sydney, you see everything's updated. We can see the data here with the revenue. They're below, they're red, and they're red for both. And we've got far fewer people because I'm only seeing my people within here. So I've got the same interface, but I can give this to multiple people if they're doing similar sort of things. And it's just simply a matter of switching here. Very easy to administer, that the data ownership sits within the data is entered or mapped to that level. If I just go to Australia, who are on top of all of that, and then again, so this case here, now I could be the team leader, the country manager, and I've got the people that I'm managing. And as you see here, of course, again, everything's updated because I'm looking across all of the data sets. I've got a lot more people in here. Now, in reality, I'll come to this later, but I'm going to have a specific experience and app for the workforce manager, because they wouldn't necessarily need this because they're not necessarily creating the budget, they're managing it. But let's have a look so we can see something here. If we have a look at that 125%, that's going across the 6 different regions. And as a manager, I can sit on top of that and see here, for instance, like a Brisbane, 172%. Obviously very high. There's my Melbourne one, which is 136, which we saw earlier, and we can roll down. And so I can just showing you there how the data availability as the manager is different, and the experience I can have from that level is going to be different. So I want to design something specifically for each of these different roles, and this is really always what it's coming back to. So I'm going to come back down into my Melbourne one, because I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to try this out. As a manager here, I'm thinking, well, I'm a bit high here. I'm doing well in my revenue, but let's just say I've got my new hire here, SM3, and they're going to start in March. I apologize for the US dates, by the way, this is a US demo instance, but we've got them starting in March. Remember, we're doing a budget process for the year of January to December, and I put in my new hires for 2 in February and 1 in March. I'm thinking, well, what if I did postpone that hire? Remember, it's a salesperson, so they bring revenue. So I'm going to push this person forward, him or her. We don't know who it is yet. I'm going to make that save and just keep an eye on where that reflects against our targets, because this is what we've identified. We need this to be there. And of course, we have lost some revenue there because it was 118%. And we've also dropped some costs there. So but we still over. I might be happy with that. I might just want to try it out and see what it is. In this case here, I am actually going to go back and say, no, I am happy with that. I want to put it back to there. And I want that to be what I'm going to go forward to. Okay, now in a second, we're going to roll forward to the forecast process. And what I just want to show you is one other screen here. I'm going to go to the revenue one, just to show you an app. It's different, slightly different. I won't go into so much detail here, but just to show you how it varies. So for instance, what we've got here is customer data. So data is available, like I said before. This person here has done the budget. You can see it's in white. They've finalized their numbers for the year, 10,000. We can also see last year's numbers, it's 8,000. We can use that data to inform my future. Data availability is key and important. And again, we've got the same concept there of them being able to see their goals in here. But what I'm going to do now is roll forward in a month. And again, this effectively, when we roll forward the months and the different forecast period, takes such a long time. These types of tasks will just become instant or very quick to manage and to roll forward when you have a solution like this. Notice here we've got within the same interface data from not just one area, but from different versions. And we all know versions. And so I'm going to roll forward to April. So we're going to have 3 months, January, February, and March of actual data. And just see how this experience changes now within the interface. First of all the data is updated here. These have changed. But what do you want to see here? The green is for historical data, it's actuals data. And so behind the scenes, seamlessly, we've integrated with the sales system. It's brought through the quantities by the customer level data. I've now started my forecast. It's starting at April, and we can see we're rolling forward. And all these numbers are updated because these January to March numbers have overlaid the previous budget numbers. And of course, it meant that there's going to be variances incurred throughout that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring, give me 1 second, I want to get this one out here. I'm going to bring in another dashboard here over that. So I've just jumped here from the workforce, and I've created a specific one called workforce forecast. Just again, for illustrative processes, just to show you that I'm going to do something different in a forecast process. And I want to guide the people that's different. We need to show them there's different things happening. With the budget process, we were trying to create the New Year's budget, and we were going towards a target. We were looking at last year's data, but now we're going through the plan. We now need to bring in the data that, like we saw earlier, from the first 3 months of actuals. But now I need to manage my ongoing performance so that I can meet or track against the budget that and I need to feel like I can be compliant against this. I need this to be easy for me to track. So this is user experience all along. I want to show you a few things here. Let's go to this workforce planning interface again. We've had a new refreshed HR import because we've got fresh synchronized data, like we said earlier. We've got these two. Remember, they were new hires in the budget. They've come in. There's George Washington and Amanda Hyatt, and they started on the date expected there. I've also still got this new hire. He said he's going to start in March, but as you can see here, we are in April now. So they haven't started yet, but the HR system hasn't caught up in this case here. We know that because if I look over on the left here, my headcount, 6.6, 0 variance. So as far as we're concerned at the minute, there's been no change to what was planned. And if I go up to this salary details here, we can see that, and this is for the full year. So what we want to do is to make our people see where we're going to hit by the end of the year. I want to keep that focus on the end of the year. And we can see here that there's my 744 will be the full year forecast of actuals and forecast data. And with 17K, we're actually under, with positive territory. We're 2.2% under. We can see that is in what's happened in this one here. We can see the forecast says we're much higher in January, then we drop below again, and then the following months we were tracked because we haven't made any changes. It's exactly the same as the budget, and so on here. Okay, so we've seen those changes, and we see these percentages. So what I'm going to do here is make some forecast changes, make this easy. So it's easy, it's available for me. I now find that this person is not going to start. That for whatever reason, they're going to push that out 3 months because they're not going to start to the 30th. So I'm just going to change the date, and that's part of the instructions, by the way, is there. And as soon as I click save, remember, instant, real time, everything is real time and instantly here. Let's look at how this updates the charts around it, and we can see instantly we are 1 headcount out, which is exactly what we'd expected because we were expecting this person to have started. Now we have pushed them out there. We're also 3 months out as far as because the dollars have been more positive because we've had 3 months less. We expected 3 months more of dollars to be against that. And we can see that we're actually very high up. We're heading for 718 if we are, and our budget is saying 761,000. So we're doing pretty good. So what I'm looking at now is saying, okay, I've got a bit of budget spare here, and Amanda Hyatt knows someone, and very similar. I want that sort of person, and I know they're available soon. So I'm going to just try out if I can. I'm going to just copy this person. So I can just copy the row there. You saw right-click, copy, and I'll keep the name and details the same for now. But what I'm going to do is just change that start date. I'm just going to assume they're the same salary and everything. And remember, we're in April, so I'm going to say they can start on Monday the 17th there because they're quite available. And what's that going to look like? So we put a new headcount in. This was not budgeted, remember. But I want to test out, is this still available to me? Am I still comfortable going forward if I do take on this hire? And we can see here, we just dropped us down. We're now minus 2.3%. We can see our headcount for April, which just dropped us down because we actually just remember we started halfway through the month. So we're actually gone from 1 headcount to half. And we can also see this waterfall chart. It's just showing now we've gone positive there. We remember we were coming down before, and now it's there. Now, I think I'm going to say I'm happy with that because I think I'm still comfortable. It's not terrible. I'm going to go ahead with that. I'm happy. There's my forecast process done. Everyone's updated. This all flows through to finance. The cash flows are updated. It all consolidates in real time based on every one of these people inputting in real time, all at the same time as well, potentially, all happening. and then they would submit their forecast as well once they're happy with it, and say, yep, that's submitted, and we go forward. We can then use this as the basis of the comparison for next month in May. Okay, so last thing I'm going to show you on here, I said I would just show you just from a manager's perspective, just how things can change. Again, I want to get this idea that everything's personalized and how easy these are to change. So first of all, a manager, I'm going to go up, I'm at Australia level, and I've actually created just very quickly an ad hoc screen here. As a workforce manager, I might not be interested in the entry sheets like we saw before of the HR system, but I'm just interested in how my team is doing. So I'm sitting at this level here above my team. So everything below that is rolling up into this. And I can see at a glance here, I've created a personalized dashboard, and I can see the headcount where we're at across my whole team, and I'm -4 down. And I can also see some salary variance if these not showing too much here, but I can see the forecast against the budget across all my team members. And I can also drill down. I don't even have to drill down. I can show a headline here, and then I can show that same metric, but show it by my team. So I can actually see each one's there. You can see, for instance, I can make this bigger and see Melbourne forecast against the budget, and the same thing there. So I can immediately get an impact across my team. All right, so that's great. So I'm going to switch back to my presentation now, and just continue the last few slides. And we may have a little bit of time at the end for some questions. So again, what do we need? You've seen the user experience that we've been highlighting here, but what is actually required from the software to achieve this? What is it in a software sense? So you can see on the screen there, some of the requirements that we see are really essential. But what I've found over many years of using and teaching the different tools is that we can build a roadmap and deliver a phase 1 solution and scope. It's really important we deliver not a template, but a bespoke solution. Really, you saw how everything was bespoke. Now, normally, template is what you like to hear. Oh, yes, I've got a template report, but I can tell you that's the worst thing. You don't want to hear that word template ever, because now you can use tools where you can get exactly what you want, but you're not changing the underlying structures. It's completely bespoke. You can design it yourself. You're not going to break anything. And our consultants in this are actually, a lot of them are drawn from business backgrounds. You know, they've worked as an FP&A administrator, and we find that they work very well then because they're working with you at your same level. So we must be able to deliver the goal of a highest possible user experience. We must be able to easily customize and adjust with no recourse or dependencies to others. So I don't want to have to go to the consultants, to the vendor and make these changes. Can I do them myself? So you'll also see we don't have a typical like production, non-production, test, sandbox instances. No, we can manage and manage all of these types of changes just within the instance that you're in. And we also must be able to iterate easily, iterate changes, try them out, get the feedback. You can get the feedback from your business users, and they say, I want them these changes, I want you to tinker. It's very easy for you to get that feedback and become that UX designer. Okay, so how do we deliver that? In reality, we deliver it by, we call it a teach to fish, which means obviously that, like the saying goes, we can give you a fish to eat and that will last you for a day. But we don't want to do that. We want to give you the tools and capabilities so that you can go fishing yourself. And this is typically the process we use. We have this concept of work in progress where we build it in front of you, feed it back to you, get your input early, and you learn it, you understand the underlying logic. You get this feedback where we can build these exactly to what you need. Okay, we are now, I think, just about 5 minutes before the end now. So I think that's a good moment there. We just got a little bit of time there for any questions or feedback from there.
Hi, Phil. We've got a couple of questions. So question number one is, you've shown the salary details, when you were doing the salary part of the demo. Can you remove salary details? And can you also make the columns read only?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because of course, yes, what I'm showing here is data from the HR system, and I might want some of these just to be natural. I just want to present them, I want to show them, but I don't want to change it. So yes, and the main one I hear is this column. Obviously, this is the most sensitive column in here, and often people say I just allow them to do headcount, but don't allow them to actually see this here, and that's absolutely fine. We're showing everything here just for transparency, but definitely we can just highlight what columns shouldn't be used.
Another question was, can you show a non-technical person how to change these screens?
All right. Yes, so that's great. Luckily I've got a bit of time to do this. So this is at the bottom of this. How can I be a UX designer to finance? But what we've got here is this button here, and it's only available to those that allowed it. I click on edit, and immediately I'm into the underlying building blocks of this in the screen here. And you can see on the left-hand side, I've got various, I can just drag and drop the various ones I need in here. And on the right-hand side, we can see where we just adjust the look and feel a bit through these very easy to use, they're non-technical, and the data is available in this little suitcase. So I've got access all the data in the organization, and we've got GL data, but not just GL data, we've got all the other sort of data that you might, metric data. And again, what we would be expecting to do here is just to drag and drop that into there. And as you drag it in there, it starts to build it up as you go along, and you continue to just add that data in and make some changes to this data on the right hand side here. So there's a few things here. You decide which version it's going to belong to. For instance, there, so I could change that version, and as soon as I make that change, you'll see that the chart has changed there. So just in that short little show and tell there, we can very easily see, and I can easily get help access help on this. But there's online training that we provide, so we want you to be able to have these skills rather than us build them up.
Awesome. Another question is, can you get an audit trail for all the changes that you've been showing?
Yeah, no, and that's great. So of course, and as both the finance person or even myself as a manager, I might say, what did I change in this sheet here? Like, I remember we changed some dates. I haven't, I can't go and show you where this is now, but you can have this information to hand and see, what did I change? All the things I changed as this Sales Melbourne manager, say, or I can look at the changes made between a certain time or between a version X to version Y. Look at all the changes that I've made between one version and another, and what I've actually done within the current version. And it changes anything, whether it's a date or a financial field, or I've added a new row. You can see all of that clearly.
Super. And last one is, can you add notes or comments as we do in Excel?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'll just show you an example just on this one here. The sales one would be the easiest one, because all these numbers here are editable. We can actually just change the numbers like so there, and they go blue. And if I right click that, I can add a note. Again, it's all just available for supply chain or whatever it is that that I couldn't make. I can't make those numbers there, and I can get that little note appearing there in there. So yes.
And then I'll just share the poll results quickly for everyone. Thank you for completing it. So yeah, what was your experience with Workday? We've had 33% who are aware of it and have used it. And 67% who haven't used it, and some are aware of it. So thank you for answering that.
And I think if anyone wants to follow up, we've got some people that will follow you up, but if you want to shoot me through a question, we'll make my email address available. If anything here that you want to drill down further, please shoot through that.
I'll drop that in the chat for everyone now.
Thanks. I think, is that a wrap now, Savannah? Or anything else to?
There's no other questions, so yeah, that's us.
Lovely. All right, thanks very much everyone who's attended.